What happens when a city has millions of single women, but many of them still struggle to find the kind of partner they actually want? That question is becoming increasingly common in China. Shanghai has often been described as a city filled with highly educated, financially independent single women. But recently, Chengdu has started attracting even more attention. Some Chinese media reports and online discussions have claimed that Chengdu may have around 2 million single women, compared with roughly 1 million in Shanghai. Whether those exact numbers are accurate or not, they point toward a much bigger question. Why are so many educated, independent women remaining unmarried? And the answer may be more complicated than simply saying, they have high standards. Consider one matchmaking story from Chengdu. A woman born around 1990 reportedly approached a matchmaker. She was a local civil servant, around 1.65 meters tall, attractive, and earning roughly 80,000 yuan a year. Her request? She wanted a man earning around 250,000 yuan annually and standing about 1.70 meters or taller. The matchmaker was surprised. He reportedly told her that she might be able to find someone even taller. Her response was interesting. She said she didn't need a very tall man. Around 1.70 meters was enough. On paper, her requirements may not sound extraordinary. But the problem isn't always what one person wants. The problem is whether enough people who meet those requirements are actually available and whether those people want the same thing in return. And this is where China's changing marriage market becomes fascinating. Shanghai and Chengdu, two different cities, one similar problem. Shanghai is one of China's wealthiest cities. It has expensive housing, intense competition, long working hours, and a highly educated population. For many young people, building a career comes before marriage. Chengdu is different. The city is famous for its relaxed lifestyle, universities, technology and service industries, food culture, entertainment, and relatively lower living costs compared with Shanghai and Beijing. That has attracted huge numbers of young professionals and migrants. But a city becoming more attractive to young people can also create an unexpected side effect. More people become financially independent and marriage becomes less urgent. Women who once depended heavily on marriage for financial security may now be able to support themselves. And once marriage becomes a choice rather than a necessity, people naturally become more selective. But there is another side to this story. A woman from Anhui who works in Hangzhou recently described her own dilemma online. She was born in 1988, unmarried, and financially independent. Her family introduced her to a man who reportedly earned between 200,000 and 300,000 yuan per year. He was around 1.70 meters tall and unmarried. But she wasn't attracted to him. Her biggest concern was his appearance and hereditary hair loss. And that led her to ask a very honest question. At my age, am I really supposed to choose between attraction, income, personality, and family background? She wasn't necessarily desperate to get married. But she was worried about the future. What if she changed her mind at 40? Would finding a suitable partner become much harder? That fear is important. Because many people aren't rejecting marriage completely. They're simply saying, I don't want to marry the wrong person just because I'm getting older. But then comes the age question. This is where opinions become controversial. Some Chinese matchmaking professionals argue that women face a very different dating market as they get older. They claim that younger women often receive more attention, while older women face increasingly strict expectations from some male suitors. According to this viewpoint, a woman in her early 20s may receive attention even if she doesn't have a high income or impressive career. But by her late 20s, questions about income, career stability, family background, and previous relationships may become more important. And after 30, some matchmaking markets can become significantly more difficult. But there's an important distinction here. These are social attitudes and matchmaking opinions, not a universal rule about every Chinese woman. There are millions of successful relationships involving people over 30. Still, the pressure is real. Women may hear questions such as, why are you still single? Do you still want children? Why haven't you married yet? And sometimes the comments become much harsher. A woman can be successful, educated, financially independent, and attractive and still be treated as though something must be wrong with her simply because she hasn't married. That pressure doesn't only come from men. it can come from parents, relatives, friends, and even society itself. And men are under pressure too. It's easy to turn this into a story about demanding women. But that's only half the picture. Men face their own marriage pressures. In China's major cities, men may be expected to have a good income, stable employment, housing, savings, and the ability to support a family. For example, some matchmaking discussions in Chengdu suggest that a man around the age of 35 earning roughly 250,000 yuan annually and standing above 1.70 meters may already be considered highly competitive. Again, these numbers aren't a universal standard. They're simply examples of how specific the expectations in some matchmaking markets can become. And that's the real problem. Both sides can create long lists of requirements. Women may want income, height, appearance, personality, education, and family stability. Men may prioritize youth, appearance, personality, family background, and compatibility. The result? There can be plenty of single people, but relatively few people who satisfy each other's complete checklist. So why don't they just lower their standards? That's easier said than done. Marriage isn't like buying a phone. You can't simply choose a cheaper model because the expensive one isn't available. You're choosing someone to potentially spend decades with. So people naturally care about attraction, trust, personality, lifestyle, finances, and family relationships. But there is a danger on both sides. When the checklist becomes too long, a person can stop looking for a good partner and start looking for a perfect candidate. And perfect candidates don't exist. A woman might reject a man because he's losing his hair. A man might reject a woman because she's over a certain age. Someone else might reject a partner because they don't own an apartment. Another person might reject someone because their salary isn't high enough. Individually, each requirement may seem reasonable. Together, they can make the dating pool extremely small. Chengdu's bigger story. That's why Chengdu is so interesting. It's not simply a story about too many single women. It's a story about a society changing. People are getting more educated. Women are becoming more financially independent. Young people are moving to large cities. Marriage is happening later. Career goals are becoming more important. And traditional expectations are colliding with modern lifestyles. The result is a completely different marriage market from the one previous generations experienced. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this. Being single doesn't automatically mean someone has failed to find a partner. Sometimes it means they haven't found someone they genuinely want to build a life with. But there is also a difficult truth. The longer people wait, the smaller their pool of potential partners may become, not because everyone over 30 is undesirable, but because people's circumstances, priorities, and expectations change with age. So the real question isn't, why are so many Chinese women still single? Maybe the better question is, why has finding a compatible partner become so difficult? For both men and women? Because behind every statistic is a real person. Someone who wants love. Someone who wants independence. Someone afraid of making the wrong decision. And someone wondering whether waiting for the perfect partner might eventually mean waiting forever.